Welcome to Lead with Clarity. This is a space for leaders who want to grow without losing themselves in the process. Each episode is a short reflection on leadership, influence, and the inner work that shapes how we show up for others. Not hype, not noise, just clear thinking for the journey of leading well. Today's episode is entitled Own Your Story, the Narrative Foundation of Executive Leadership. Here we go. There's a quiet crisis happening in organizations right now, and it has nothing to do with strategy, technology, or market conditions. It has to do with identity. Specifically, the identity of the people who are supposed to be leading. Walk through any executive floor and you will find leaders who are extraordinarily competent, deeply experienced, and still somehow invisible. Not because they lack results, but because they've never claimed their story. They've let circumstance, critics, and corporate culture write the narrative for them. And that's a dangerous place to lead from. Indra Nooyi said it plainly when she said, "The secret to success is to own your own story." That sentence is deceptively simple. Nooyi did not become one of the most consequential CEOs of her generation because she was the loudest person in the room. She became that leader because she was the most intentional author of who she was, where she came from, what she stood for, and what she was building. I want you to think about a leader that you admire, not just for their results, but for their presence as well. There's usually something consistent about those people. You know what they believe. You know what they will not compromise on. You know the story of how they got there and why it matters. That coherence is not accidental. It's crafted. And it starts with the willingness to look at your own story honestly, name it clearly, and lead with it openly. I've worked with leaders who had everything on paper: the pedigree, the track record, the relationships. But when asked to describe their leadership story in a room full of peers or in a board conversation, they deflected. They minimized. They let the moment define them instead of stepping into it with clarity. Here's where a lot of leaders get this wrong. They hear "own your story" and they think it means self-promotion. They think it means crafting a polished narrative that papers over the hard parts. It doesn't mean that at all. Owning your story is not about spin. It's not about positioning yourself for the next opportunity at the expense of honesty. Leaders who try to own a story that is not true eventually get exposed. And the cost of that exposure is always higher than the cost of honest self-disclosure. Owning your story means being the first, most honest voice in the room about your journey. It means not letting your setbacks be someone else's punchline. It means not waiting for someone to grant you permission to call yourself a leader. There's real courage in that. Because when you own your story, you own your failures too. You own the pivots, the wrong turns, the moments where you learned hard lessons in full view of other people. But that honesty is exactly what creates trust. And trust is the currency that leadership runs on. The leaders I've coached who have done this work, who have taken the time to understand and articulate their story with both clarity and humility, they become magnetic. Not because they are performing, but because they are present. Authentic presence at the executive level is rare, and people follow it. So here's what I want you to sit with this week. Not a task, but a question. What story is being told about you right now by the people around you, by your team, by your peers, by your organization? And is that the story you would choose to tell? If there's a gap between the story you want to be known for and the story currently being told, that gap is your leadership development opportunity. Not a performance management problem, an authorship problem. And you are the only one who can close it. Indra Nooyi was right. The secret to success is owning your own story. Not the perfect version of your story, the true version. The one that includes where you stumbled and what it taught you. The one that holds both your ambition and your humanity. The leaders who leave the most lasting impact are not the ones who had the cleanest paths. They're the ones who owned every turn in the road and led others with that same honesty. Your story is already worth telling. The only question is whether you will be the one to tell it.